Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got another in our interviews with executives of junior mining companies. And today we have Mario Stefano from Galantis Gold on the horn. Thanks for joining us, Mario.
Thanks for having me again, Allan.
So, Mario, I'm a big fan of your orogenic gold system in Northern Ireland. What really excites me about those is that they go on for very deep. They are structurally controlled, and you have a series of zones that are in close proximity to each other, and they're in close to a key structure. So it looks like you've got the whole story there for an important orogenic gold system that can go very deep. You put out some news about your contract mining that you're going to be doing. And what really stood out to me was you guys mentioned the importance of dilation zones for the mining. But I also think it's crucial for the exploration because those zones, you can keep following them deeper and they give you predictability of where to find the high grade. So let's talk about that, Mario.
Yeah, no, exactly. So let's first start with the contractor and QME. They're going to be a key partner going forward. QME is an original equipment manufacturer. They basically take a lot of older equipment and completely refurbish it and remodel them. And they were and continue to be heavily involved in contract mining in Europe. Most recently, for example, they were one of the contract miners and did a lot of work for Boliden at the Terra mine in Ireland. And that's one of the reasons why we have a unique opportunity here to utilize them, because as we said before, we were running into a lot of difficulty trying to find a workforce. And it was just extraordinarily complex. We couldn't find that experienced workforce, but QME does have that experienced workforce, and they're much more confident now that they can source that experienced workforce because Terra has been put on care and maintenance for a period of time. So that's really going to be beneficial for us. So they spent quite a bit of time doing the due diligence, and they're really familiar with mining in Ireland. Obviously, they mined at Terra, they mined in the Republic of Ireland, and they also did a lot of the bulk sampling for Dalradian, which obviously you know quite well as well, Bear. So they spent quite a bit of time going through the mine. They're confident they can get back under there and mine this effectively with their workforce. And I think that really it was the biggest risk for us now, is trying to find that experienced workforce that would be able to mine this ore body. So that's, we think, is a good solution for us going forward. And the same thing as you point out, they see the real value of these dilation zones because they are thicker, higher grade zones. And we've really just started identifying these trends at both the Kearney vein and the Joshua vein. And as you pointed out, they go to depth, they plunge to the north. This deposit is structurally controlled. It's in these Dalradian style rocks, just like the Dalradian project that Orion has, which, by the way, we've heard it is for sale. We know there's lots of big companies out there doing due diligence because we hear it, we see it at our project, people coming around. So we know there's going to be a lot of eyes on this thing. And keep in mind, Orion bought this for $550 million back in 2008 18 rather, in a much lower gold price environment. But since then, they've continued to drill this, and we hear this thing could be up to over 10 million ounces now. So it's a world-class discovery, 20 clicks away from our deposit, an exact same structure, very similar rocks. So we're pretty excited with what we have. And as you said,
when you talk about Dalradian, it always brings a smile to
my face. Of course it does.
I recognized it at 25 cents, and I thought it was a world-class deposit in the making. And they're the only other company I've ever followed in Ireland. And Mario, I saw a lot of the same similarities of the early days of. But in reality, you guys are priced like you're in the early days, but you're more advanced than when I first picked up on Dalradian. And I think you guys got a very, very exceptional discovery there.
Exactly. We've got high grade, we've got these dilation zones, we got a number of veins we still got to test. We've really only tested 2 veins out of 16 identified to date. And we know we're going to find more as we continue to explore this district. But what's interesting for us as well is we're permitted. So we're not going through the permitting process. Dalradian/Orion is still going through the permitting process for their project, but we're fully permitted. So I think that's a big difference in our case. You know, we can start mining, we can start producing the cash flow. Really what we need is that solidified mine plan with our contractors where we're going to be confident we've got an experienced workforce, where previously we would hire people, 3 months, they would turn over, and we were spending all our time training our guys. Once they're ready to go, you know, they work for a couple of weeks and they recognize that, you know, mining is not for them, working underground, and we had to start the whole process again. It was just
And
too difficult.
QME is the big shareholder of
Yes. Yep. They're a big shareholder of Galantis, and they'll continue to be a big shareholder of Galantis. And you know, they've worked at a number of projects in Ireland, and this is their home base. So it's really important for them to demonstrate that they can continue to mine our project. And keep in mind, at some point, Dalradian's going to be up as well, available for mining. So that may come down as contract mining. So there's a lot of motivation here for all of us to show that we can generate a lot of success for Galantis here. So Jimmy's quite excited about it.
You know, it's important that you talk about that Dalradian thing, because that's the kind of thing that major mining companies have to have, not want to have.
Oh yeah,
they need. And
they need it.
You know, if a big major comes in and scoops that up, it's going to bring a lot of attention to you guys because you've got something very similar and not too far away.
Yeah, exactly. And there is no 10 million ounce, 10 gram ore body out there. There just isn't. And this is high grade. And keep in mind, that deposit is still wide open. The more you drill in this area, the more you find, just like Galantis, right? Everywhere we drill, we find gold. And these kind of camps are very rare. It reminds me of Timmins, right? When we were drilling our Lakeshore deposit on the western side of Timmins, but you look at,
I got a smile on my face on that one too, because I picked that company, and you guys took over West Timmins, I think.
Yes, West Timmins Mining, exactly.
So it was a combination. I got two for the price of one.
Exactly. We consolidate that whole district. But you look at the Timmins camp, which is what, 100 million ounces mined to date. If you really drill anywhere in Timmins, you hit gold. You just do. I'm not saying everything is going to be ore grade, all of them are going to hold out its deposits. But everywhere you look in Timmins, it's richly endowed with gold. It sort of reminds me of this camp. Anywhere you test on these Dalradian rocks, you find gold. And it doesn't matter if it's Galantis, if it's Dalradian, or you go further north into Scotland with Scott Gold. There's very high grade gold all along this belt. And those are
very underexplored.
Exactly. It's never been explored, really, other than Galantis, Dalradian, and Scott Gold. And really, only Dalradian has drilled any significant amount of meters, and they came up with 10 million. We've drilled 25,000 meters. That's peanuts. Scott Gold probably drilled something similar, and they got a 10 gram ore body. So it tells you this belt is richly endowed, but the difference is it's controlled by these three companies, mainly ourselves, Dalradian, and then Scott Gold has got some ground to the northern part of Scotland. So this belt is really controlled by very few companies in a world-class district. As you pointed out, the majors have to have this asset. The question is, who's going to get it?
And you know, some of the success that you have had that I don't think is properly recognized in your valuation is that you have drilled into these dilation zones. For my audience out there that doesn't understand what a dilation zone is these orogenic gold systems, they follow cracks in the earth. And then sometimes those rocks will open up. This is called the dilation zone. Now, this is important not just for the mineralization that you get in the dilation zone, but it's also indicative of the power of the gold mineralizing system below it. And what's really interesting about this Kearney and Joshua is that you're getting a trend of these dilation zones. So not only can the contract miner come in there and focus on them, but that helps you with the drilling deeper and gives you added predictability of where you're going to find more of this exceptionally high grade.
And that's a key point as well in the predictability. Our ore is very continuous. So we don't get those VG nuggety style hits where you get, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 grams, and then, half a gram, 1 gram. We get some very continuous gold. And the reason for that is the gold is in the sulfides. It's fine grained. And it's very well distributed. So the continuity when it comes to mining is critical, and we got the continuity, and that's gonna be really important, as you pointed out, for the contract miner when they go underground. The ability, when you see the sulfides, you've got ore, and rather than having to hope you're in a zone that you've got 5, 10, 15 grams gold, if you see intense sulfides, it starts at around minimum 5 grams. It could be up to 10, 15, 20 grams. And it's got some great predictability, and that's going to be extraordinarily helpful, as I said, once we're mining again underground.
Well, you brought up a good point there as well, which is the zonation of the gold in these orogenic gold systems goes from the fine grain, and as you get closer to the heat engine, you get more coarse grain. But what I excites me about this is that you're already getting high grade in the fine grained material. So that's indicative of what you're going to find as you follow it deeper.
Exactly. And you look at our deposit, the deepest hole here is 300 meters, which is
That's
crazy,
nothing.
right? Just because there hasn't been a lot of drilling here. And, it sort of reminds me a little bit of Newfound Gold. They've got an interesting project without doubt in Newfoundland, the Queensway project. They continue to find new veins, new areas, new zones, but they're drilling, I don't know, was it like 150,000 meters this year alone? Crazy amount of drilling, don't get me wrong, but it just shows you how quickly you can find a significant amount of gold the more you drill. So in our case, because it's been, a tight budget for the whole life of this asset here, as we continue to grow this and continue to drill, extend the Joshua and the Kearney vein to depth, particularly in these dilation zones, and then start to look for more veins in and around these, because we know there are a number of veins that have, 1 or 2 holes with some pretty good grades in it, just never been followed up on. So the more we follow up on these additional zones, the more confident our investors should be that we're going to have a multi-million ounce deposit here.
And that's more evidence of the power of the gold mineralizing system, in that you have multiple zones in close proximity to each other near a fault, which suggests that you've got this powerful system just waiting to be tapped into, Mario.
Exactly. And, I'm pretty excited. We think we've got something here. Patience in this market we're all in, I think we're all scratching our head, trying to understand how the junior market is where it is. I've been saying this for, 8 years now. This is one of the worst I've seen it in some time. And, this is by far the worst I've seen it ever, period, when it comes to the junior market. But that's the opportunity at the end of the day. At some point,
and
this market's going to turn, and it's going to turn really hard. When new money flows into this sector, this is not a scenario where you're going to get 20, 30, 40% returns. This is a scenario where you're going to get, multiples 2, 3, 5, 10 times on some of these companies. Don't know what's going to happen. I thought it would happen by now, but things get delayed here and there. But I'm pretty confident
reminds me
of
it's
going to come back hard.
It reminds me of the start of the 2001 to 2011 bull market. Nobody believed it was happening.
Yep.
I think it already started in November of 2022, and nobody believes it. But they're coming from such a low base. The volumes has dried up. All those people that want to sell on the lows have sold. And there's just waiting for a slingshot. And these are the kind of companies that your company is the kind that people will be flocking to. And then before I let you go, Mario, I wanted to talk about some core pictures that you showed from Scotland with some nice looking sulfides in them. And you're looking at a VMS system there.
So again, our team tries to find projects in districts that have been overlooked that have significant potential. So Galantis is a great example of that. obviously Dalradian, we were first movers in this part of Ireland. When you look into Scotland and what we're calling the Galantas project, it was something that was identified in the 70s by Goldfields, and they identified it as a gold-rich VMS system, but then stopped looking and drilling in the very early 80s. It hasn't really been touched in any way since then, other than one drill hole, I think it was 2018. So basically, since the 70s, some pretty good holes, but never followed up on. We recognize this as a potential significant VMS district. And the reason for that is, even though this area wasn't in the control of a mining company for a long time, the British Geological Survey recognized it as a key district for copper, gold, and cobalt. So they sent their team, they sent PhDs doing some work, they did sampling, they identified wide zones of copper mineralization in soils, cobalt. Then they also did some rock chip sampling. And for example, 10 kilometers to the south of where we're drilling, they identified an outcrop that daylights over some sandstone that they got 5 grams gold and 0.5% copper. And then we've been doing some ground work in the area, and we went to an area where there were some road cuttings, and we identified an outcrop with some bornite and some pyrrhotite. It's obviously mineralized with the bornite, and that's 1.5 kilometers to the east of where we're drilling. So we now think that we may have a significant VMS system, and this is a Beshi style VMS system. It's really the age of the rocks, which the Beshi VMS in Japan is world class. You look at Flin Flon, that's a world class VMS district. These gold rich VMS systems are very rare to find. LaRonde, for example, took a long time for Agnico to identify what they had at LaRonde.
But that was their company maker.
That was their company maker. So we think we got something here. It's just, you got some pretty nice looking chalcopyrite. We're confident there's gold because historically there were some nice gold hits here. So it's going to be we think, at least in this area, the gold grades are going to be higher than the copper grades, which is very rare. And we're just starting. VMS systems are like pearls on a necklace. You find a pod, then you got to look for the next pod. And these are old age rocks that, again, these things will go down to the bowels of the earth. You just got to continue following it, and you're going to find some really nice zones. And it seemed like LaRonde. LaRonde is not one big continuous deposit. It's a multiple of these pearls on a necklace. So we think we got something here. We're pretty excited, actually. We got really lucky picking up this project. It was one, I've said before, we weren't going to put into Galantis. I would have done this myself in a heartbeat and taken this public in a heartbeat, but I felt obligated again to go back to the board and say, look, do you want to do this project? Because I think we should. It's one of those rare opportunities it's hard to turn down. And the board agreed. It's something we got put into Galantis. So now we think potentially 2 world-class, well, with Galantis, we're extraordinarily confident that's in a world-class district. We're right next to one. The Galantas one will be emerging district, but we're pretty confident based on the amount of targets and outcrops that have been identified over 10 kilometers that this could be something that is extraordinarily interesting for our shareholders.
Well,
just continue to pay attention.
I love those copper-rich or gold-rich VMS systems because they also come with a lot of copper, and I'm very bullish on copper and gold. And so that's a hell of a combination. And speaking of these, the cluster that you find these VMSs in, that's what they do. They come in clusters. The Iberian Pyrite Belt is an important one. And this is an underexplored. And, Mario, I think that this world where you're looking at every country wants to have critical metals coming from their own countries, that your timing to be going into Europe is quite exceptional as well.
Yeah, and Galantas in Scotland has got cobalt. It's got copper. Those are all critical metals. But even what we have in Northern Ireland, we've got 500 square kilometers, and then we also have another land package in the Republic of Ireland. These areas, even though our current project is gold, but we've identified historically copper and zinc in both land packages in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So even though today we're focused on gold, we're one of those rare companies that because we were first movers in these areas, we actually have a lot of mineralization in this area. Just the time and effort to look for it is going to take a bit of money. Once we get, I think, our project up and running and consistently producing gold, then I think we can start going further afield, looking for more gold, but just as importantly, start looking for that copper, looking for the zinc, because it's there. These are old rocks. Think of Newfoundland. Think of some of the big discoveries on the east coast of Canada, even in the Laurentians, theoretically. You've got some big world-class discoveries throughout there. There's even nickel identified in this area of Scotland, which is crazy to think about, but no one's really looked. I'm not saying there's a Voisey's Bay there. It's not what I'm trying to say, but if you found nickel in Newfoundland, there have been 30 juniors trying to find another Voisey's Bay. Here, when you find nickel, you got to try.
And it's the same
no one
rocks.
pays attention. Yeah,
It's
same
the
rocks.
same rocks, the same age. They were
systems.
once all one piece. And
Exactly.
this is how the continents are built, by these old rocks.
Nobody looked, right? So, that's why when we saw these opportunities, we just locked up the ground, knowing that we've got extraordinary prospective land packages that's backed by also our project in Northern Ireland, like Galantis. But then even when we look at Scotland with Geological, we've already got an area that had some really good drill holes. We're just going to continue to grow it. And if we can identify 2 high-grade, gold-rich systems, I think that's going to be a company maker. Both of these assets could be in their own company. We're lucky enough to have both of them in Galantis.
What a way to end it. I'm going to close it off on that note, Mario.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
So there you go, folks. Galantis. Mario summarized it very perfectly there. They're looking for a world-class orogenic gold system in Ireland in the same kind of rocks that's got everybody excited in Newfoundland, and they're hitting the right kind of stuff. They got these dilation zones to mine and to use for exploration. They've only tapped the top of an orogenic gold system. These things can go down for thousands of meters, and the grades get higher and higher the closer you get to the heat engine. And then they've got this Scotland VMS system. I'm liking what I see so far, and these things tend to come in clusters, and they're understanding it now. They're hitting sulfides. I think these projects will result in a lot of great news, and very undervalued company. But I don't think it's going to stay that way for a long time. So it's time to look at these with that greedy glasses on. On that note, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.